go ahead, let Ike run it for a second.
I call it a genetic spacesuit. And it's kind of funny, you know, if you were on the moon with someone and an astronaut started thinking he was his spacesuit, I mean, crikey, can you imagine? Hey, Houston, we've got a problem. Bill thinks it's his spacesuit. He's bloody mad because he's not his spacesuit. Yeah, but we think we're our spacesuit. And what would there be in that situation on the moon? There would be chaos. Well, that's why there's chaos here, because we believe we're our spacesuit. That's what makes racism so insane. It's like saying, oh, I'm better than you because my spacesuit's a different colour. Bloody ridiculous. But the cutting edge of human knowledge, so why should I complain? We are consciousness working through the body. Now I got a real amazing feeling for this. About 2 years ago, just before I last spoke here, when my mother died, Barbara, and I went along to the funeral, obviously, and my brother had organised it. He said to me, "Do you want to come and see your mum while in the mortuary or at the funeral parlour?" And my immediate reaction was, "No, I remember her as she was, because it's just a body anyway." But something said, "No, go." And for some reason in my life, I've never come across. It's the first time I've seen a dead body. It was my mother. And I turn up and I walk in this room, and there's this body in this coffin, this open coffin. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but it was dead. There was no bloody life there whatsoever. Dead, unbelievably dead, took me aback dead. And next to it was this picture, which my brother had blown up, which was going to go and be used in the funeral, which it was. And there was my mother's absolutely dead body, and there was this picture of my mother absolutely full of life, full of energy, full of sparkle. And I stood there and I could see in those two images what life is, what consciousness is. Because that was alive, that was dead. We are consciousness. And we've got confused. And in identifying who we are with the body, we've seriously buggered up our sense of perception and therefore our ability to be free. The energy that or the reality that we are experiencing, that we apparently see with our eyes, is just a frequency range. That's all it is, and it is minute. What we call visible light. According to current mainstream science, the electromagnetic spectrum is 0.005% of the energy known to exist in the universe. 0.005%. And visible light, which is the only frequency that our eyes can decode into this reality, is a fraction of the 0.005%. We are basically visually blind in terms of what exists in the same space that we're experiencing. It's just a television, holographic television station we're experiencing. Tiny frequency range, visible light that we are experiencing. And what we are is, at this level, receiver transmitters of information. And the range of frequencies that we are accessing decides the range and perception and awareness of reality that we experience. So the more you can close down the range of frequencies that we are accessing, the more you close down the perception and the sense of infinity of the people you are targeting. The body's a biological computer. Biological in the sense that, unlike a desktop computer, it has the ability to an extent to think for itself and work things out for itself. That's what we call evolution on a physical level. The computer is constantly receiving information, vibrational information from its environment, and it is reacting to that. It does it all the time. If we go into a place where it's cold, it will react to that. Where it's hot, it will react to that. And it's the same with things like animals, that over a period of time, their environment changes. That information is being received by the computer and analyzed by the computer, and it's making changes. And if those environmental changes, habitat changes, happen slow enough, that is why you see animal bodies evolve to fit the new environment. But if it happens really quick, we call it extinction because it can't change fast enough. It's a computer working. And we are receiving vibrational information which we're decoding into this reality. Get into that more shortly. We are interacting with this infinite consciousness, but how much of that consciousness are we reacting to with? That depends on the range of frequencies we're accessing. And we're a bit like a dodgem car in a fair.
David Icke has been giving public lectures for a long time. By 2006, he'd already spoken in at least 25 countries. In 2008, he had a huge event at the Brixton Academy in London, speaking for 7 hours to 2,500 people. He's definitely been at it for a while.
Now, David Icke, a cat I've been listening to for a long time. Yeah, I know he's not into Christian, don't like Christianity and all that good stuff, but weird enough, he kind of helped me with my Christianity. With his, you must unlearn what you have learned. No, he didn't say it like that. It was more of a, we've been programmed to think on this manner, and now that you are of consciousness, you are a grown person, you can think on your own. Relearn it and forget what you originally knew. Learn it again and verify it. Know it to be true.
Well, we're going into some challenging information here and in the next section, so let me focus again. The idea that this is a lost cause that we're involved in here is no way it's a lost cause. We take our power back, game over. So we can paint another picture. Please hold that thought, because it's very, very important we don't get pulled into fear by seeing what we're involved with. Now, Gino Krishnamurti said something very, very true when he said, if we can really understand the problem, the answer will come out of it, because the answer is not separate from the problem. They're indivisible. 25 years I've been full-time on this, and the evidence has brought me to this conclusion. There's no one out there, see? All that is, there's no one out there. And when you think that what we're seeing is only what is within a narrow band of visible light, and then you think what possibilities lie beyond that in the great infinite forever, the idea that we are alone is absolutely beyond ludicrous. So like I say, I'll cut to the chase. This reality that we're experiencing has been hijacked by a force that some ancient people call archons, but there's different names right across the ancient world for the same force, the same entities. This is when the penny drops, when all these different names for the gods all over the world turn out to be different names for the same force, because they're described in the same way. And all over the world you see this. In the Far East, Central America and other places, they're known as the serpent gods. The Zulus call them the Chitahuri, the children of the serpent. They're the Anunnaki in Sumer, Babylon, now Iraq. There are snake brothers to the Hopi people of North America. They're the star people, many, many examples of that. They are the demons of Christianity. To the Gnostics, they are archons. And to the Islamic and pre-Islamic world, they're called the jinn. And in their prime form, they are energetic in nature, but they can take form, as I will talk about. So, like I say, they're described so much in the same way, but they can take form, as I will talk about. So,
Nah, that's kind of what me and Ike have our disagreements. There's no dispute because he don't even know Ike. That's kind of where I disagree with Ike on a lot of things. As much as I do like some of the things he talk about, he classifies, he has this thing against Christianity, and he classifies the Christian God as one of these archons. By your own definition, he may not have gotten to it yet, but by their own definition, your own definition, these archons are deceivers. That's who God told us about. That's who Christianity told you about. And this whole concept of angels and demons. And let him finish going first before I start rambling on.
like I say, they're described so much in the same way, because they're different names for the same thing. So, the Gnostic people, not the Christian Gnostics, the pre-Christian Gnostics, that ran the great library at Alexandria, and they also manifested as the Cathars in southern France. They say that the archons are made from luminous fire. The jinn, according to Islamic and pre-Islamic belief, are made from smokeless fire. And you see this correlation of description wherever you go. Now this, for me, was one of the great finds ever in terms of understanding the nature of what is happening. At Nag Hammadi in Egypt, about 77 miles north of Luxor on the Nile, in 1945, a sealed jar was found with loads and loads of documents in it, leather-bound. And they told the beliefs and the perceptions of this people called the Gnostics. And the Gnostics had a completely different view of reality than religion, which is why the Roman Catholic Church and the Roman Church tried to destroy them wherever they got any strength and any foothold. They ran the great library at Alexandria, which had something like 500,000 scrolls detailing the beliefs of the ancient world and the history of the ancient world, destroyed by the Roman Church. And, like I say, the Cathars, who were destroyed again by the Roman Church.
Well, he is from England, and him having, again, a thing against the church does make sense now that you think about it, because everything is the Roman Catholic Church out there.
1244, I think it was, at that place in France, Montségur, that fort on the hill where I've been a couple of times. The religious establishment wanted these people destroyed because they were dangerous, because they had the truths they didn't want the people to know about. And this is what these scrolls and this find at Nag Hammadi said. 1/5 of the texts, and there were lots of them, were about a force they called the Archons, which they say created our physical universe, and they equated them with the Judeo-Christian Yahweh Jehovah God. And when you see the Old Testament,
which is what I'm talking about right there, where he says that they say, but that's what he believes also, where you believe that you know that these other entities, life forces, or whatever you want to call them, exist in another frequency realm that we can't perceive with our eyes, and you want to equate that dark force that you call archons to that Christian God, just because of what some people had left inside a can, thousands of years ago?
Kill them and flog them and all that stuff, God, it fits precisely with the descriptions of the archons by the Gnostics. So what they say in these writings, in these texts, is that, well, first of all, archon means prince, ruler, authorities, or from the beginning. That's why they use the word archon.
Prince. Just sound like the ruler of this earth, trying to pretend to be who he said he was going to be.
They said that the Archons and the Lord Archon, which they called the Demiurge, was a fake god that created our physical or material reality as we perceive it. The Gnostics related the Demiurge, like I say, to the Judeo-Christian Yahweh Jehovah God, and they are inorganic, not resulting from or produced by growth. They are artificial. And they say in these texts that they created the inorganic parts of the solar system, but that the sun, the moon, and the earth were a system that were of itself and different from the rest, which was kind of interesting with what will come later. They said that the Demiurge Archons had no creative imagination and envy humans because we have. They're like cyborgs. Again, we're coming back to the...
Everything he says constantly sounds like what in Christian belief would sound like evil spirits, devils, demons, while you're equating that same evil spirit to
inorganic. Like cyborgs, a robotic race that can imitate but not innovate, and the word they used was counter-mimicry. Now, what they were saying, in effect, is if you gave these Archons a blank sheet of paper, they could create nothing on it. They don't have that creative imagination, that what was called intentionality. But you give them something with a piece of paper with something on it, and they can twist it and manipulate it. Once it...
Right now, he's kind of equating it to computer technology and the AI that they believe is over all of everything that's going to be.
Exists. And they used the term fantasia because these entities, they said, just as the Islamic people say about the jinn, have the ability to create virtual reality illusions. They're mind parasites. They possess humanity and manipulate the way they perceive everything. And they say the word you could use more than any about the Archons was deception. They are deceivers. And what they create is an inversion of the natural order, which will become so crystal clear as we go along. Now, as I've kind of studied this and put it together, it seems to me that what we're looking at is what I would call a self-aware distortion.
And just so we don't think that he's talking out of his wazoo and making just wild claims like he may seem to be doing at times. Here is Elon Musk's Neuralink getting monkeys to see things that are not there, because after it gives it the ability to see if I can find it in the article, after it gives the monkeys the ability to see, it also can create things in the monkey's mind to where it can see things that are not there. It can literally, from that point on, you can literally implement images into the monkey's mind, which is what he's saying that these Archons do. So the concept is not feeble because we didn't figure out how to do it. Let you go through a little bit more. In short, I have nothing against Ike. I kind of like him. I just think that his perception is limited. His truth is shorthanded for the fact that he refused to accept the Christianity, God, Jesus, as a source of truth, where that cuts off a whole bunch of your truth and you're just constantly trying to go around that and create other different things that don't make sense, when what you're saying does make sense. It's just you refuse to add Christianity to it. And that would solve a lot of your...
And it's self-aware inversion. The Archon world described by the Gnostics is one of death, one of no creative imagination. And the other thing about the archontic mind is it's what we call psychopathic. They're psychopaths. The definition of which is this: no empathy, no remorse, no empathy, no ability to put themselves in the feelings of those that suffer the consequences of their actions. Once you have no empathy, you have no limit to what you will do, because you have no emotional consequence for doing it.
The fact that that needed to be clapped on says a lot. But he's talking about spiritual entities, saying that they have no empathy for us, and that concept makes a whole bunch of sense. Why can't you... He about to get to it.
Other thing, the Gnostics used in these texts the word hal, meaning simulation. They talked about the fact that these archons could create what we would call virtual realities through controlling perception. They said about the archons, they make something appear to happen that does not happen. They can induce a virtual reality experience in the translation. They can manipulate humans by creating illusions.
So when we see people running around crazy, saying that, talking to someone that isn't there, yelling at the walls, acting like that's a real person, when you see delusioned people and a taser can't take them down, we know that that's possessed people.
Reality does, or is, its possibilities and probabilities folded into existence by perception. So this whole archontic system is about programming our perception, programming a distortion of our perception, an inversion of our perception, which is why we live in a madhouse, because it's an inversion of the natural order. Now, before this, what I call hack, and you'll see why I say hack shortly, there was another world described by the ancients. And very much along the lines of the Avatar movie and the Na'vi, the blue people, and how they interacted with the natural world, how they communicated with animals, how they communicated with each other beyond speech.
Sounds like Garden of Eden and the serpent that fooled them into putting us into this new life.
And what the Gnostic texts say is that the archons made a bad copy, as they describe it, of our original reality. The original reality was that kind of avatar world. That world is an information construct which we decode into...
So in short, what you just said was, we got kicked out of Garden of Eden and got cast into this world.
A lovely world. This is an information construct which we decode into the world that we have today. And the idea, this might need a battery, mate. The idea is was to create this illusory reality, anyway, and then tuning humans into that bad copy. Now, when you think about it, we're tuned into an information field of certain frequencies. We decode that into a reality. If we are then moved, our dial is moved, so we're decoding something else, we just decode another completely different reality. And that's what is meant by this bad copy. So, this is an image that sums it up. I'm walking outside in the sun. You don't have to be in the sun, you just have to decode the fact you're in the frickin' sun. And it's the same with this bad copy. You just decode a reality and you think it's real because it's the only one that you can perceive. So you can decode a reality of the avatar kind, and then you are fed a different information source, tuned into it, ways that I'll come to, and then you decode a different reality. What I call the archontic reality. If you can create a virtual reality simulation, then you can create an alternative to it as well, which is what the bad copy is. And you're tuned to it through something called entrainment. Entrainment is the process by which, if you have 3 violins and they're all plucked to the same note, therefore they are the dominant frequency, put another violin in there, either plucked to another note or not plucked to any note, and it will start vibrating in sympathy with them, because they're the dominant frequency. And if you can create a dominant frequency, then you can start to entrain.
So in short, in order for me to have my avatar world, I'm going to need to convince everybody around me to have an avatar world mindset too, to where they're all in tune, and unless I can force them to get in tune with my vision, but you still have to change the world around you.
The human decoding system into that frequency, and suddenly you're decoding a completely different reality. This oncontic energetic inversion distortion is not in this reality in form, although it can be, as I'll come to, but it exists in a reality very close to this one. And the idea is to distort our reality more and more, so it starts to blend and combine and come together with theirs.
What he's talking about is augmented reality, where we have plans on blending our reality with first computer reality, and then bringing those, as he would say, archons or evil spirits or jinn or so forth, so on, into our reality. 1 second. I couldn't find my clip on them telling you that they actually want to augment reality, and that's the next stage behind the Google glasses and so forth, so on. But I'll put that inside another video that I've been had coming on that I just kind of forgot about doing.
They are seeking to turn this reality into an extension of their reality through distortion and inversion. Now, this is even Alexander. He said that when he had his massive near-death experience, the first place he went to was very unpleasant. And to me, what he described was very much like this archontic realm that I'm talking about. He said he heard the sound of rhythmic pounding that was distant yet strong, a little like a heartbeat, but darker and more mechanical, that keeps coming up, cyborg. Like the sound of metal against metal, as if a giant subterranean blacksmith is pounding an anvil somewhere off in the far distance. Pounding so hard that the sound vibrates through the earth or the mud or wherever it is that you are. Reptilian, worm-like creatures crowded past him, he said, and sometimes rubbing against him with their smooth and spiky skins. Faces bubbled up out of the darkness and became ugly and threatening. The pounding intensified and became like the work beat for some army of troll-like underground workers. He became aware of a smell, a little like faces, a little like blood, a little like vomit, a biological smell, in other words, but of biological death, not biological life. And whatever, that fits absolutely the descriptions of these entities and this inversion. And they're seeking to bring their reality into ours by syncing their frequency. The Golden Age society, the way it's described, and again in the way the Avatar movie portrayed that society, was a heart society. This was the point from which they interacted with the world, the heart, which allowed them to experience reality outside the bounds of time and space. When you come from the heart, you don't do hatred. The heart doesn't hate. The heart doesn't seek to destroy. And so this inversion was about taking the point of interaction.
The heart is deceitful above all things, and desperately wicked. Who can know it? Proceed evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, thefts, false witness, blasphemies. These are the things which defile a man, but to eat with unwashen hands defileth not a man.
And last one, Proverbs 4:23. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. The heart causes the issues of life. Logical, rational thinking, any man knows. You want to say stop using your brain and start thinking with your heart, but everybody knows that you don't make logical and rational decisions off emotions. But that's what your heart provides.
Action with the world from the point of love, heart, into the emotions. And how do we see now our society and how people interact with it from the level of emotional response and emotional reaction instead of here? And when that moves to that we interact with the world here, the world dramatically changes. And so, like I said earlier, with this heart coherence with the central nervous system and the brain, once we get into this, we start to disconnect from the heart, disconnect from beyond time and space, and start to have this as the governor of our perception. And if you take it in a computer game terms, the idea is to pull us into the lowest level where this archontic force works from. Now, Gnostic writings have been estimated level where this archontic force works.
Now, the lower levels are the negative emotional states. If you literally talk about that in some of your other videos, and everybody else explains that, if you could dig into the vibrational sequences and all that, studying and all that, the lower levels are the lower emotional states, the hate, the anger, and that's what you want people to, you want to bring them up to a, go ahead, let you finish talking.
Now, these Gnostic writings have been estimated to have been buried in that sealed jar between about 350 and 400 AD, which corresponds with the destruction of the Great Library of Alexandria run by Gnostic thinkers. But it's suggested that they were possibly written about 100 AD. In those documents, all that time ago, best part of 2,000 years, they say that the archons can take form, and the main forms they take are reptilian entities and those known today as greys. The archons describe the greys as like an unborn baby or fetus with grey skin and dark, unmoving eyes. That was nearly 2,000 years ago, and it's the same description as what we call grey entities today in the modern world. And of course, I've been saying for a long time now that behind the human networks of control is a reptilian form. But I did say a long time ago, I didn't think it ended there. I thought it went into the realms of something else, and this something else is this archontic inversion, I would suggest. Like I say, condemnation without investigation is the height of their ignorance. They say it's rubbish, but they don't investigate it. And yet, when the Daily Mail runs a story from some chemist, scientist, a few years ago, who said that he thinks from his research that there are reptilian entities all around in other dimensions, then he was treated as dead straight because he's a scientist, so he must know what he's talking about. And there was another study which was kind of projecting what some of the dinosaurs would look like if they hadn't been wiped out, as they say. And they came up with the fact that by now they would be humanoid reptilian entities like that, which is interesting because when you look at the descriptions around the world, this is a Zulu description, this is a painting made by a Spanish artist who said he interacted or experienced these reptilian entities. They are described in remarkably similar ways. And this...
So in short, let me see if I understand this. These creatures who may have been the ones who deceived Eve are just remnants of that spiritual class. You want us to raise our vibration high enough to where we can be in a realm with them, which first we have to cast off this body. So you want us to raise our consciousness up to be in the realm with them. What are we supposed to do? Challenge them? How long have they been alive? And what would they do to us when we get there? And again, we're casting off this body to get there. Or why don't you do it yourself? And in the multiple, many different ways that they have for us, with meditation, medication, the drugs and stuff that where people use to get there, the isotones, binaural beats. You can do it yourself if you feel as though that's the case, but they're deceivers. What's the point? And you ain't speaking on any good ones.
A Spanish artist who said he interacted or experienced these reptilian entities, they are described in remarkably similar ways. And this is something called the Charney Project, and it's one of those kind of things that happen so often when I'm researching. I'll come to conclusions and I'll write it, and then something will come along and it will say, look at this. And long after I'd been writing about these reptilian entities, I read this article. I was in Nexus magazine, and it was by a whistleblower about a project called the Charney Project, Computer Interface Communication with Other Realms. And he said that in the 1990s here, 1994, for 5 years, they had a kind of similar thing to what's happening at CERN. It was one of these collider things, but in Africa and smaller. For 5 years, they interacted through computer systems with an entity in another dimension, another reality, and asked a total of 20,000 questions. And interestingly, this is what came through this entity, according to this Charney Project. A reptilian race was holding back humans so they couldn't grow. The entity said they had fought many battles against the reptile race in their own reality. Humans were more evolved spiritually than the reptiles, but they suppress humans with their technology. Their God is their technology. That will become seriously relevant later in the day. But look, what did the Gnostics say? That humans have creative ability, where the Archons don't. It says here, more spiritually evolved than reptiles, but we are suppressed through technology. We are the blind. The Archons are the one-eyed king. But when we become the two-eyed, third-eyed, true consciousness that we are, I have...
Talking about hemi-syncing, basically having your left brain, right brain sync together where you can use your pineal gland as your third eye and find your way through whatever vibrational state that he's talking about to speak to these entities by yourself.
No, power is what the Matrix keeps telling us, and what the agents of the Matrix keep telling us.
But they're still bad entities.
Authority, we have the power. Awakened, we have the power, and humanity is awakening.
Humanity is awakening to something that's different, because walking into that realm and trying to live amongst those things, you don't belong there. When that time comes for us to belong there, he will take us there, and not us going there on our own.